Alright, so we are live with some Modern Energy Zoo. This deck, so I could try to place who came up with the original concept of this deck. I know I've seen variations of this floating around before. I know the particular iteration we're iterating on tonight was, I believe, the original work of Dak Faden, and then he 5-0'd, and then several other people have picked up the deck and done reasonably well with it. So it's kind of where it's at. Basically, this deck is a mashup of Domain Zoo and Boros Energy. You have the God of Souls, Ocelot Pride, Wild Mikado, Flage portion of the energy deck, along with Static Prism and Galvanic Discharge. Then you have Territorial Kavu, Leyline of the Guild Pack, Leyline Binding, Cyan Draco, half of the Domain Zoo deck. What you give up things like Bolt and Tribal Flames, having a little bit better earlier opening package than, say, something like Ragavan and Wild Mikado. Your mana may be a little bit more stable as your base white to begin the game, and then you splash off in your other colors. With the current build of this being Indotha Triome and Steam Vents, gets you all 5 colors. And then obviously you have a bunch of different fetch lands of different colors to get different things. As far as Surveillance, you have Thundering Falls and Lush Portico. And then you have 2 copies of Arena Glory to make your Flages and your Scions, as well as potentially your Territorial Kavus have haste. As far as the sideboard, there's a whole mess of different things. 3rd and 4th copy of Stubby D, 2 copies of Thraben Charm, which is notable for its stay in the Boros energy deck, a couple copies of Ragavan when you need to go a little bit faster, Meltdown when you need some artifact, Hate, Obsidian Charmaw when you run into some Eldrazi's, Fiery Justice as a pretty decent sweeper. The downside, your opponent gaining 5 life. The upside, you can deal with as many targets as you want, toughness X1, etc. Then a couple copies of Nihil Spellbond, pair with your Thraben Charms as kind of your anti-graveyard package. And that is pretty much what the deck's trying to do. You're a Domain Zoo deck that's also an energy deck, and we're playing it because Daybreak Games was nice enough to give everybody a... let's make sure that we have the right deck first. Yeah, we do. One of the downsides of having the All Access Pass is, unfortunately, sometimes you click the wrong deck and then you start the wrong league, and it's like, oh, I don't want to do that. So I'd like to play first. Yeah, sand is perfectly acceptable. So I played a little bit more Boros Zoo this weekend. I played one more league, went 3-2. The same list that we went 5-0 with last time. I've also played a Boros Burn League this week and went 4-1. Played some odd matchups. And then we're playing this deck. So got a Souls, go. Affinity, sure. All right, well, so probably want our Meltdowns. Fiery Justice, maybe. Charmaw is a possibility. Thraben Charm is a possibility. Don't want the Ragabans, the Stubby Ds, etc. It's possible we would want the Stubbies, but go ahead and board those out. And looking at Johnny, a Flage. The problem is not having seen our opponent's configuration. We don't know if they're just like a low to the ground affinity deck, or they a mid-range controlling version, like the mono blue version with like a bunch of the Metalcraft dispute one that I can't think of off the top of my head. I mean, not a huge not a huge fan of this hand in terms of the 4 lands, but I am a huge fan in terms of Meltdown being a card. So okay. That is certainly a thing. Sure. Need to grab one of our red sources. Steam Vents gets the most of our colors out of the system. Territorial Achu, go. Uh-huh. Blood Crypt. Clock on her opponent. Sure. Yep. Yep. So green, red, white. exactly what our opponent could play to get out of this. I mean, yeah, that's certainly a card. So, fetch basic planes. Is there anything 2 mana or greater? I don't think so. This is 1 mana. Alright, got the skip. This deck is admittedly pretty sweet in concept. I mean, Territorial Kavu is quite nice with Flage. The energy package is just reasonable on its own. I mean, it does have some issues. You know, it lacks bombardment. It lacks some of the removal spells of the other version. Because typical Boros plays 4 Gal, 3 Static. I guess this actually might play more removal, because that plays 4 Gal, 3 Static, 2 Thraven Charm, 4 Flage. I think one other thing I need to mention is there will be no live stream next weekend. We will be in the process of finally moving into the new place, so it's going to be a hectic but needed weekend, so there will be no stream next weekend. This is certainly a weird hand. I think we keep it, but it is certainly weird. So what do we grab? Temple Garden? Jogmoth? Jogmoth confirmed. Probably not the best of hands against Jogmoth, but Especially since Stubborn Denial doesn't do a whole lot. Mm-hmm. Trigger. Gain energy. Gain cat. Mm-hmm. Perhaps I made a mistake with what land we played. Do we have another Steam Vents, Thundering Falls? Yeah, it was dumb to play that one. I should have just played the Steam Vents, shocked it in. Oh well. Mm-hmm. What are we looking for here? An answer to the Yogg Father one way or another. So, do they risk a Flage here? They do not. So I think we go ahead and surveil. Good card, but I don't think it's what we're looking for here. Yep, good old Yogg Father doing Yogg Father things. Mm-hmm. Come on, give me something, deck. Just 3. Mm-hmm. Hard to beat double cord in this case. Alright, moving on. So, probably interested in Thraben Charm and Fiery Justice. Charmaz, whatever. Not a Ragavan matchup. Spellbomb, not really sure on that one. Stubby D, not really. Get that out. One of those and one of Johnny, I guess. Probably should have mulliganed this one. Lag problem is solved, yet still it lags. Okay. Okay, so at least our opponent has an equally... It's turn 1 slow start anyway. Gotta get the Andatha here. Steam vents. Sure. Yeah, well, sure. Rumble, sure. Young Wolf and Bowmasters. And lands. May choose Verdant Catacombs. Okay. Sage you? No, Walrus. To GSC for Triad Arbor. Not the hugest fan of doing this, but it's the only one that kind of makes sense to do. Grist would obviously be annoying. Sure. Cord for 1. Yeah, Besage you. Flage would be nice. this. Oh, that's a pretty solid backup card. Presume they took Yawgmoth. That's interesting. So block. Screwed up on casting this. I mean, sure, you can cast Yogg, but you don't have a whole lot going on for you here. Can't be countered, sure. Mm-hmm. I didn't even have to show them Fire Justice. Does anything change on the draw? think the last time when we played Yogg last week with Boros, they mainly screwed up playing against Containment Priest, and that really ended up being what kind of got them. Like, I'm honestly just not sure about Nihil Spellbomb, how important that is in the matchup. Like, their deck is somewhat graveyard dependent with the combo and Soul Cauldron, but at the same time, they're not entirely graveyard dependent, so, like, how much graveyard hate is too much graveyard hate against them? Especially when black is the least used color in our deck. So. Keep. Turn on. Yep. Go. Okay. So these are their 4 choices. They choose Misty Rainforest. Into what? Walrus? Oh, Young Wolf. Okay. Drawing a few too many lands here. Hope this lives and somehow they can't develop their board any further. Yeah, they just have Yawgmoth, don't they? Yeah. Game 3, game over. I mean, it's entirely possible. We should just mulligan to more aggressive interaction. It's the downside of not playing a deck as much. You don't necessarily know the correct lines to take all the time. Like with Burn, or to a lesser extent Boros Energy, I can almost immediately identify what's a keepable hand, not a keepable hand. Domain Zoo being a little bit slower but a little bit more powerful, probably should have kept a little bit of interaction. come. Sure, we'll try it. All right, well. Temple Garden into, whatchamacallit it is. Opponent notably does not fetch, so we have no idea exactly what they're on yet. Okay, well, we'll attack first, get our point of damage. Play our Steam Vents, play Territorial Kavu. Will our opponent finally fetch? Yes. Some type of surveillance land, I'd assume. Nope, just basic plains. Yes, am I about to get hit with Heliot? Nope. All things on the bloody planet. I'm stuck staring at boggles. Just boggles the mind, yo. What green sources do we have in this deck? Temple Garden. So we can't necessarily double spell this turn. Okay, apparently we just have all of these in a row. Pass. Crack the canopy, looking for another Boggle Bogle. Down to the yard. Just told it's WD. Don't want to give them an opportunity to have just ley line. Sheltered by Ghosts interplay. Bloop. Alright, well, Thraben Charm in, Stubborn Denial in, Galvanic Discharge out, Flage out, probably Johnny out. Fiery Justice doesn't do much, none of these do anything. Could consider Ragavan on the play, but I think on the draw we want the more controlling route. It's been so long since I've seen somebody play Bogles, I honestly forgot it was a deck. Hardly the most exciting hand, but we'll keep it. Boggle Bogle or a Bogle Boggle? Army in a can. Blow up target thing, blow up target thing, blow up target thing. Turn 1, boggle boggle. Like I said, turn 1, boggle boggle. Mm-hmm. Shocker. Go and pass. Doubt we're going to be able to blow them out, but you never know. Yeah, that was annoying. Yep. All right. So that was kind of dumb, but boggle bogle, bogle boggle. What you got, friend? Woohoo! No. Boop. Pass. Yeah. Okay. As a Bogle Boggle, do you Bogle Boggle the Bogle Boggle? No, you do not Bogle Boggle the Bogle Boggle. Even though the Boggle Bogle Boggle Bogle is the Boggle Bogle. I'm a kitty cat. And I'm Asperduce, and I'm Asperduce. Yeah, token you create this turn. Create a token that's a copy of it. That was honestly just extremely dumb. So far this league we've played against Affinity, Yawgmoth, and Boggle Boggles. Which, it's probably been 500 or more matches since I've seen Boggles. Literally seen Hideaway tokens more recently than I've seen Boggles. So. I guess we'll keep this one. So, preordain. My gut would tell me we're probably up against whatchamacallit breach? Team breach? But could just be some Grixis or Is It deck. It's been one of those days for that, Foz. How you doing? I've played against a lot of unique decks today. Almost feel bad for the exchange that's about to happen. I'm trying to think how I can... What are our opponents doing? They cannot... One is from Foundations. So my opponent has Preordained, Force of Negation, Counterspell. Looks like they're going to play a... Yeah, sure, they can do that. Beginning to understand why they tried to counterspell the cat. Because I don't know that they have a whole lot going on here. Sure. Dotha, so now we have all the colors online. So, do you have another counter spell? Doesn't look like that you do. Let's say, Flame of Lenore, draw 2 cards. Sure. Okay, so we're just up against Wizards. Wizards with a really weird start. That was absolutely dumb, but... Despite us missing an attack step, our opponent was nice enough to concede. Alright. Probably want that. Probably want spell bombs and possibly stubbies. Maybe charms. These 8 cards, maybe. Yeah, on the draw, we don't want the Ragavan. Guess we keep this one. It's not necessarily the best opener in terms of mana, but this is one of the reasons why I usually board down on one of the flages. It's because I fully expect things like surgical extraction and such to come in. So what are our options? So definitely obviously want to play something. So our choices are like Temple Garden for, I guess we get Steam Vents and then next turn we get a tapped Ndatha. Yeah, pretty much. I generally board out one Flage in a lot of matchups, especially when I'm expecting, you know, surgical extractions and other nonsense, especially when, in general, surgical extraction is kind of a blank against this deck unless they go after Guide, or do they go after a Johnny? They go after Guide. I'll have to draw an untapped land here. All right, well that works. So the only problem I have with this deck is the fact that because we kind of shuffled our collection around, I only control or only own the energy portion of the deck. I don't have like the guild pack, binding, scion portion of things, and some of the mana base. Right now, Daybreak Games, who manages MTGO now, did a like 2 or 3 day, maybe 4 day all access pass because of the lag problem that was being experienced. You may have seen in a couple of the streams that like spiral of doom that would keep floating around for like a month or so. The other thing I mentioned is next week there will be no stream. We'll be in the process of the vast majority of the move next weekend because we finally are getting into the place back towards home that we were supposed to get in at the beginning of December. So, it's really hard to take my opponents seriously when their name is Kinky Dog. What do you even say to that? Alright. I think we only put in the one ley line. Could put in both, but there might be discard value to this later with Territorial Kavu if we happen to draw it. Alright, so we're up against Rakdos Delirium most likely. Hollow one, whichever you want to call it. Time to do I was going to say, we're doing the Burning Inquiry Cha-Cha, shuffle up your hand and throw it in the trash. But Detective Phoenix, did they draw a hollow one? They did not. Okay. Or they're just waiting until their second main phase to play for some reason. Alright, so sure. Alright, I mean... Could have gone guide. Might have been better to go guide here. Assume that's their draw step. Because otherwise you just play that. Oh, sure. Time to do the truffle shuffle. Do we literally keep the same hand? We literally kept the same hand. Sure. Point goes to 10. Draws 2 cards. Sure. Don't know if there's anything that's... Unless they have another freaking Burning Inquiry here. Which it looks like they might. Sure. What a fun game. Defective. Detective Phoenix will probably have to let go. There's one of them down there. Sure. Yeah. Not sure what the need for flashing that in was. Or for shocking that in. Card on top, sure. That is right up there with the cards that I wanted. Mm-hmm. Problem is we don't know what card they left on top, and Stubborn Now wasn't going to do a whole lot. Other Doif, yeah, that's a scary one. That's lethal. Our opponent to 3. Main phase. Red, white, white. Alright, so definitely want Third Charms. Probably want Nihil Spell Bombs. Fiery Justice is a maybe. So even Charma, all of these are kind of middling, obviously. Stubborn Denial is very situational. Again, fully expect my opponent to bring in some type of graveyard hate. Johnny is middling in this matchup as well. And then the question becomes, does Fiery Justice answer enough? So it clears up Bowmasters, clears up Bowmasters quite nicely, but I just don't think that's worth it right now. Also answers Hollow Ones. Maybe we leave it in. No, draw. We'll just leave it out for now. Funny part is I don't know how they beat Leyline Scion, but because there aren't too many good ways for Rakdos to answer enchantments. Artifacts, sure, on their own. But an artifact that has hexproof, good luck with that. This one's got some cards we're interested in, but don't know this hand is good enough on the draw. This hand admittedly is not a whole lot better. Sure. Blood Moon should also be a card that we're concerned about here. I guess 3-Din Charm kind of has us covered. Sure. Currently requires what, collective and 6. Masters. This for 1. Awkward fetching because of Blood Crypt. Presume they have a bolt in their hand. 2 cards in hand. Okay, sure. I say if their last card is a Detective Phoenix, we're dead here. Because they get to attack for 5, reset it, attack for 5. I guess we can technically chump block to stay alive. But then we're dealing with a 5/5 and a leftover 2/3, and no way of doing that currently. Alternatively, if they put it on this, they have a 4/4, both things are flying. Yeah, that'd be lethal. Perhaps they're having problems keeping Delirium by using Detective's Phoenix. I mean, none of it mattered this game, but was kind of stupid of my opponent. Well, not stupid. They made a mistake. Not that we were able to punish them for it, but... Back Thundering Falls. So it's pretty clear they don't have DRC in hand. They might have Burning Inquiry. Sure. Interesting choice to look at their top of their deck twice. Nothing really of value in their graveyard. Masters ping the yep. Trade here, prevent 4 damage. Mm-hmm. Tactus Phoenix, Arena of Glory. Okay. Go. Sure. Flashback. Oh, there's a FOMO. Down the stack. Gotta pop the bomb. instead of 5. Sure. Sure. Unfortunately, they do get their Bowmasters back. They poke Scion or they poke me? Sure. So I can only assume they have a Bolt. Best case scenario would be a Falagi. Say, you realize you don't have domain or any, whatchamacallit anymore, right? Delirium. Sure. Two of those would have been reasonable draws. Just a 6. Probably should have done that before attacking, but, you know. I mean, if they draw Bolt, we're dead. I can't play around that, so I'm not going to pretend to. A lot of cards to look at. I do think you are going to time out, unfortunately. Yeah. Definitely not my favorite way to win a match. Like, yeah, that's just definitely not my favorite way to win a match. So I think in some ways this deck is different enough from Boros Energy and different enough from the regular Zoo openings. And it's possible, who knows what they drew off that Faithless Looting. So, that was a close matchup. And we could have top decked a Flage, a Scion, a removal spell. You know, there's a number of things we could have top decked there to been in pretty decent shape, especially once they have to block with that Bowmasters. Then we turn on the ability to discard draw with Kavu. So on the plus side, there's two halves of the deck that function quite decently. You have the energy package, and then you have the territorial Kavu Zoo package. Where the deck gets tricky / a mess is the mana base. That's one of the things with Zoo always, is the mana base is always a tricky thing. A lot of it comes down to what your 2-drop of choice is. You know, like some of these versions play territorial Kavu, some play the 5/3 domain one. I could just look it up instead of being a moron. Territorial Kavu. Neshoba Brawler. Some are playing Psychic Frogs, some are playing Bowmasters. So a lot of it comes down to, like, which opener do you want? Do you want the energy opener into Kavu Ajani? Do you want Ragavan Wild Nacatl into Kavu and Neshoba Brawler? Do you want basically no 1-drop creatures into Bowmaster, Psychic Frog, Scion, Flage? That's kind of where the Zoo thing is at the moment. Is you just, and then there's of course Blue Zoo that has like a bunch of counter spells in it. I don't know how I feel about that version either, but that's one thing about Zoo is Zoo has like 4 different builds: the Blue Zoo, the traditional Zoo, Energy Zoo, and I guess you'd call it Dark Zoo with Frog and such. This one's a little bit more synergistic. Like I said earlier, your Johnnies are a little bit worse in that you can't, automatically flip them with a Goblin Bombardment. The mana is obviously a little bit tricky. This one obviously being slanted towards white. Ideally, you want to open with Fetch Land, get a Ndotha Triome and Steam Vents. That sets up your mana quite nicely. Or have Leyline of the Guild Pact. I mean, Leyline and Scion are still very difficult cards to beat if you're not prepared for it. And those are some very tricky cards to prepare for in the current meta right now, when a lot of people are worried about energy or combo decks, neither of which line up well in a pick your poison or those style of cards meta, really, unless you're kind of like gunning for affinity and have our enchantment hate as a secondary thing. Flage is still a stupid card. God of Souls is still a stupid card. A Johnny and Ocelot Pride have their roles in this deck. The sideboard, I mean, I'm trying to think if there was a card we didn't bring in. The only card I'm not terribly sure of is the Ragavans, and I can easily see some matchups like Titan, Eldrazi, where you want this just to go a little bit faster. Charmaw, obviously, against Eldrazi. Thraben Charm came in, the Stubbs came in, Meltdown came in, Fiery Justice came in, although mana for this is a bit tricky. I don't know about spell bombs over something else. Like, I understand not wanting to mess with your Flage, but I wonder if something like Ghost Vacuum would be a little bit better, just because the black mana is so awkward in this deck when you have Blood Crypt and Endotha Triumph as your only two black sources. So 4-1 solid. I mean, our record with energy overall, including the league I finished today, is 80% through 5 leagues. Our record with this one's 4-1, and Burn's been on a pretty decent tear lately, too. So, you know, it's nice after months of playing Prowess and Burn to not much results to be, you know, having some solid results again. So, as always, if you like modern content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. There'll be quite a few videos coming out in the next couple weeks, as there was both energy lists, mainly Boros, and then obviously a little bit in the way of some of the other decks, as there was a couple different all-access tokens that have been available the last couple weeks. I've tried to play most of the top decks, at least for a game or a match or two. Just kind of give people a bit of a rundown of how they operate, etc. So, if you like modern content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Give us a follow over here on Twitch. It's also MTG_Nexus, just like our YouTube channel. And thank Foz and everybody else for hanging out. And once again, there will be no stream next week, as